In April 2026, an ocean-bound luxury cruise ship departs from Ushuaia, Argentina. On board are 150 passengers and crew from 23 different countries, setting sail for the remote islands of the South Atlantic and Antarctica. Days into the trip, an elderly passenger falls ill. What starts as a mild fever rapidly escalates. His lungs begin to physically fill with fluid, causing him to suffocate from the inside before the ship's medical team can even respond. This specific April 2026 departure is a predictive epidemiological model. The ship hasn't sailed yet, but the biological data used to map this scenario is real, drawn from confirmed, documented cases. Scientists build these hypothetical timelines to track real threats. The pathogen in this scenario is active right now. It is highly lethal, quietly evolving, and currently untreatable. In the model's timeline, the crisis begins quietly. 5 days after leaving port, a 70-year-old Dutch passenger visits the ship's doctor complaining of a headache, a mild fever, and an upset stomach. Over the next 48 hours, his condition collapses. He struggles to pull in a single breath, and his vitals crash. By April 11th, just 6 days after feeling sick, he dies on the ship. On April 24th, the ship docks at the island of St. Helena. His widow disembarks with his body and flies to South Africa to catch a connection home. She never makes it. While waiting for her flight to Amsterdam, she collapses in the airport terminal and dies the next day. Back on the cruise ship, panic sets in. Several other passengers are now showing the exact same symptoms. As the news hits the mainland, the reaction is immediate. Ports along the coast unconditionally refuse to let the ship dock, leaving it stranded in the South Atlantic. It takes the intervention of the World Health Organization to conduct specialized testing on the sick passengers. On May 2nd, the diagnosis finally cuts through the mystery and identifies the pathogen. The naming of the virus was only the beginning of the crisis. It meant that international borders and travel bans were being used as shields against a disease whose real path into the human population was not yet understood. The WHO diagnosis came back as Hantavirus. It belongs to a family of viruses that has existed for centuries, using field mice and rats as their primary hosts. Modern medicine first confronted it during the 1950s Korean War. Over 3,000 troops suddenly developed high fevers, vomiting, and widespread kidney failure. Doctors initially suspected chemical weapons because the symptoms were so aggressive. It took nearly 30 years of investigation before a South Korean virologist finally linked the illness to the rodents living along the Hantan River. This diagram compares two regional variants. In Asia and Europe, HFRS targets the kidneys, triggering internal bleeding. But in the Americas, HPS attacks the lungs, filling them with fluid. The HPS variant is exceptionally lethal, with a 50% mortality rate. This is not an engineered bioweapon. It is a naturally perfected environmental killer that has been hiding in plain sight for decades. In May 1993, a cluster of mysterious deaths hit the Navajo Nation in the American Southwest. The victims shared a terrifying profile. They were all young, healthy adults who suddenly drowned in their own lung fluids. Local tribal elders helped solve the mystery by pointing to the weather. An intense El Niño event had brought heavy rains to the region, leading to bumper crops of pine nuts. This triggered an explosive population of local rats. Higher rat density dramatically increases the amount of viral shedding. The rodents leave behind waste that dries and turns into microscopic dust, which is then easily inhaled by anyone entering a storage room or warehouse. This transmission chart maps a horrific mutation discovered in Argentina in 1996, the Andes strain. It developed the ability to spread directly from human to human, bypassing rats entirely. These climate anomalies act as biological force multipliers, pushing dormant animal viruses directly into our circulatory systems. Despite 70 years of global awareness and research, there is still no FDA-approved vaccine or proven antiviral cure for hantavirus. If you are infected, modern medicine can only provide supportive care, like oxygen. The actual fight against the virus is left entirely to your own immune system. Fortunately, even the human-to-human Andes strain is not airborne like COVID-19. It requires prolonged, close physical contact. This usually restricts its spread to family members or those providing direct intensive care to a patient. The virus also has a critical weakness, a very narrow transmission window. An infected host is typically only highly contagious for about 1 day during the early stages of the illness. Because there is no medical cure, prevention relies on spatial hygiene. This means sealing every gap in your home to keep rodents out, and wearing an N95 mask whenever you enter dusty storage areas where rats might have been present. In a world preoccupied with global respiratory pandemics, our deadliest blind spot remains the overlooked ecosystem